Your paper is connected with session before.
Oh, yes.
But we have time now for questions, please.
I'm very thankful that I wish I know Lithuanian language. It's my fault that I didn't.
Yeah.
But I'm also thankful that Lydia was really able to commit this rich presentation paper. This question, not just for you, Arūnas, but also to our wonderful friend and father, Algis. Are you familiar with Yuri Lachman's semisphere and the idea how we move from semosphere to another semosphere? Yuri Lachman talked about that a lot from Tartu School, Master School, Tartu School. And I'm wondering if his work has any relevance to your work.
Yes, I'm working in Vilnius University Greimas Semiotic Studies, Center for Semiotic Studies, and Lachman is one of the most
God. One of the gods.
A singing god.
This also is a living god of this center. Of course, I know that. I don't know why you asked.
Well, my question has a lot to do with the challenge that I'm facing. And I think not just me, I think I begin to see that all over the place with many people and many cultures. Our inability to comprehend paradoxes. We don't really know how to live with paradoxes. We tended to separate change and flux, as we call it, or change and permanence. It's not duality, it's not even polarity. It's a paradox that I don't know if anyone has the ability to make connection to. I don't have the answer. I'm asking because it's a challenge.
What is most interesting for me with this flux and stability is how
what is the genealogy of
living experience, of our living experience? Because we can have different kinds of abstract categories, and this two is very close to Parmenides, Heraclitus, and Nietzsche, which appears at the end of my presentation, is also a variant of Heraclitism, pan-Heraclitism, and so on. But in Algis's work, he rejects ontological and metaphysical interpretations, and I can accept this his closing bracketing of ontological perspective, but still those most abstract categories. What genealogy of these categories is? Is it from the living experience, or is it from taxonomies, abstract taxonomies?
existential topologies?
Elizabeth, question.
Yeah, I think I have two questions, or actually a comment for Jan. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I found your presentation really refreshing. I wanted to comment something I think is very interesting, relating to the previous presentation, the NASA that I mentioned, indigenous group in Colombia. They have two types of people they don't want the outsider to get to. One is the elders, because the elders hold the wisdom, the memory of the community, and they should never be approached by the outsider. And the two is the traditional medicine, the traditional doctor. And I find this very important because the NASA consider themselves never to have been conquered by the Spaniards. And part of that is that they consider the health, really, the health, this sacred tradition that I as an outsider cannot approach. So, because the doctor knows the herbs, knows where are the best herbs and who and how to give them, and has a completely different understanding of health. So it's fantastic, you know, when you're asking about sociologists going around like, hey, is that they are very aware of that. They are very aware of the fact that the traditional medicine is part of what they consider to be their patrimonio, their
heritage.
Their heritage. And it speaks it seems to me to what you're talking about, and to the way we divide or split health from the live world. And the fact that indigenous people actually have quite a awareness of that. A system that was never cut and pieced.
Yeah, I mean, I'll just make it simple. I mean, in Ecuador, a lot of times Quito's, you know, where these experts would end up coming from, and where we were, there weren't many doctors. Periodically, they would come by. So there was a real need for people. I mean, in Latin America, these are promotores de salud. I mean, this is what they're called, promoters of health. Okay, and so you train these people in a community to do these type of things. Not only is it, I think, effective, but it also preserves this patrimony you're talking about.
Right, and it's a very interesting form of resistance.
Oh, exactly.
To ideological, cultural, yes.
Well, that's another thing I didn't get into here,
Yeah.
because I tried to make it not political. But obviously, this whole approach is very political. Because, and people told me, even in Miami, when you go there, because in Colombia, we did run into some problems, because people saw this as very political. And they were very sensitive to anyone who would be talking like this would be from the left, extreme left. And so that was problematic. Now, in Ecuador, the difference was the president is on the left. And so the mayor of this place thought this was the greatest approach imaginable, because it was consistent with that approach. So when you start talking about communities organizing themselves, some places that's dangerous. Although the Colombian Constitution, what's interesting, the newest Constitution gives indigenous people enormous power, but it hasn't been carried out.
Yeah, 1991 Constitution gave a lot of power to different communities. Could I ask a question to him? No? Yes?
Yes.
Probably I'm off completely, but and you were talking about the primordial levels of understanding, among many other things, but I immediately thought about the Heart Sutra. The Heart Sutra, one of the most important Buddhist texts. Part of the Heart Sutra, it's a beautiful text, I could not repeat it. Emptiness is form, form is nothing that... Form is emptiness, emptiness is nothing other than form. And it proceeds to speak about there is no death, there is no cessation of death, there is no birth, there is no end, and it continues like that. And it suggests really in practice a reduction, but also a reduction that doesn't eliminate anything. In other words, there is no paradox. The paradox is in flux. So it seems to me that it's very much, very in I will not say even dialogue. It is the spirit of that text.
Joe will answer.
No, I'm not going to answer for that. I'm going to.
About Buddhism this is a question about relation.
Yeah,
Related to
but Joe wants
Yeah.
to answer.
No, I wasn't going to answer.
Oh,
I thought you wanted to answer. You.
You the
Hey, yo. You. Not you. You.
If you insist.
The data can speak.
The data speaks.
data speak.
Point to the data.
There is Arūnas asked the question of the genesis of this thing, and at the same time, the ultimate layer of this awareness. And the genesis is the very, from childhood on, passive awareness without any involvement of any ego or me. When I learn how to walk around the chair, I am moving kinesthetically, and I'm holding on to the same chair, even if I don't recognize it's the same. And that is the specific empirical given that is general at the same time. I learned how to walk around a chair. I can also walk around the table, around my farmhouse outhouse, you know, as a child. I'm maintaining the same thing to which I'm holding on and touching. That activity is there moving, and I'm still hanging on to the same thing. If I let go, I will fall down because I'm not yet accustomed to walking, and in fact there is no I. So there is this primary, seems to be, passive awareness of kinesthetics that does not yet even signify that there is the other side, but my tactility tells me that I'm still extending my movement around the same thing. So that same thing is not an ontological entitative. It is simply that I am feeling the same thing. I'm holding on in my movements. That is movement and stability. And the thing is that the two are not contradictory. They are different and in total correlation. You can't have one without the other. We get to the one without the other later on. But the genesis is that we are world related, and our movements cannot be movements without something to hang on to. Of course, the cosmic movement that we'll talk about later on, that has no direction, no purpose, or the flux, the flowing that we, once we disattach from this earth and the solar presence, we can think of just floating out, like the Space Odyssey in 2001, the astronaut that got lost, he just float away without anything to hang on to. But first, that permanence and stability is that kind of direct childhood passive presence. But then the other one at the other end that Arūnas is worried about, and I have not yet even thought about it, is also interesting. In Zen, not a contemplation, in Zen everyday awareness, I find myself always raising a question without a questioner.
Yeah.
If I touch this or I move there, will I, in quotes, I be able to hold on to or not? And I am always, there's a flash, a moment, that I'm between the two. And do I move or do I stay? I am between permanence and flux, and then I'm neither one nor the other. I'm then in neti awareness. Is Buddha one or many? Is neither one nor many.
Right.
Is Buddha stable or is Buddha in flux? He is neither stable nor in flux. Okay. That's why Zen masters will hit you with a stick. Well, is Buddha moving? Bang. Or is Buddha stable?
Right.
Neither one nor the other. That kind of either or logic here fails. So neither nor, or yes and also. Yes, it's stable, and yet is also in flux.
Thank you.
Short question.
Yes,
Give the hand up for John.
Okay, you tell us about community-based epidemiology and about how does it provide or couldn't provide community dignity. My question is a little bit opposite about epidemiology and contemporary critique of sanitary and hygiene industries. You know that do you know some social critiques of hygiene and sanitary policy? You know that sanitary and hygiene and these different cancerogens which are produced by biggest industries through the advertising, they ordinarily are directed against even local community life. They change their life, even produce new forms of racism, not racism from our vision, but smell racism. I accept your color, but I couldn't accept your smell. You know, just different forms of racism, and which are provided by contemporary hygiene, sanitary, cancerogens industries. Could you comment on it?
Yeah, I mean, what comes to mind when you're saying this is when you go to Guatemala and you walk around there, at least years ago, you would see signs about baby food and things like this, you know, trying to convince people to use these things, and everyone knows they're problematic and so on. So, yeah, I mean, I understand that this is going on, but you have to understand that this critique of health and sanitary conditions, in many ways, this is a bourgeois critique in a sense, because it's people have the luxury of who have bathrooms and so forth to worry about how they're being oppressed by their toilet. You know, when you have people that don't have these things, I mean, people, you know, that I deal with, they understand that they would like to have, you know, food without hormones and all this. But what they want is food, and that they want these various things, you know. So in a sense, I'm sympathetic at the abstract level to something like this, but in the places where I have been, that critique would just say, yes, that's a nice idea, John, but what we need to do is this, you know, something like that, you know. So it's a nice critique for a seminar in cultural studies. Maybe even epidemiology in a medical school. But when you're in the field doing these type of things, and someone wants to, is hoping you install a bathroom, they're not really concerned necessarily at that moment about how it smells.
Okay, Joe, sorry, but
I
we have
no time. I will take back my questions.
Then we have now coffee break in the fifth floor, 509. You drink a coffee. 20 minutes for